So the Seattle Education Association has reached a tentative agreement, and they did vote to open the schools this week while they review the TA.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
A lot happening with educators out in Washington State and Pacific Northwest. Normally we stick to the South, but with so many labor actions happening in Washington schools, wanted to give a brief update. Let's start with the big one first, which is in Seattle. School did not start on time in Seattle this year. And the reason why is because 6,000 unionized educators with the Seattle Education Association went on strike Wednesday, September 7th. The Seattle Education Association held their strike vote that Tuesday before on the 6th. And with over 3/4 of the membership participating, Seattle educators voted 95% to authorize a strike. All right, so this wasn't just a fluke thing. 95% to 5% to authorize this strike. Seattle educators went on strike for the kind of contract they deserve, which includes important resources for their students, such as improved mental health supports and improved staffing ratios for multilingual and special needs students. They were also fighting for safer schools, specifically with improved air quality measures. Listeners may recall that we actually interviewed a local parent from Madison, Alabama, Mike Bailey, indoor air care quality advocate, and he shared with us some of the really astounding research on how upgraded HVAC systems and proper HEPA filtration systems can dramatically cut the cases of COVID and the flu and other illnesses. So you saw the Seattle educators were fighting for their students in, multiple different ways and different avenues. Of course, pay is always an issue, and especially an issue in such a time of inflation that we have right now, and in a city like Seattle where housing costs have grown astronomically. They're growing everywhere, but particularly in some of these big cities out west, it's very difficult to be a rank and file teacher and to be able to afford to live in a city like Seattle. So the Seattle Education Association has reached a tentative agreement, and they did vote to open the schools this week while they review the TA. Voting on the proposed contract is scheduled for Monday. So we'll stay tuned. We'll see what happens there. It looked like they were pretty successful in some of their gains that they were fighting for in this contract. They got a lot of public support as well. Read some posts from some Seattle teachers talking about the central office, suits from the central office going around to picket lines and taping them, recording them, counting how many people were there. Just some real, petty kind of tactics happening. And that seems to be a theme here. Of course, we know that one of the most important reasons why workers go on strike, almost always respect shows up right alongside pay and benefits and working conditions. Just basic respect. And that was an issue here as well. And Seattle's not the only place. In nearby Kent, Washington, educators there were on strike for a week, and they were able to successfully secure improved pay and staffing ratios in their new contract. Meanwhile, a couple hours away from Seattle, teachers in the small town of Ridgefield are currently on strike. So it's not just the big urban areas that are seeing these kind of work stoppages. And I wanted to bring that up as well because, it's easy if you're listening in Decatur, Alabama, or Athens, Alabama, Scottsboro, Alabama, a place like Seattle, Washington, or Chicago, Illinois seems pretty foreign. But it's not just the big metro areas that are seeing this kind of organizing. Teachers in these smaller rural school districts are going on strike as well. And in Ridgefield, the only reason I even really know much about that situation is a couple of my old NSO brothers are out there involved in that strike. So shout out to Jed Riviera. I believe he's been serving as a strike captain. And attorney Mike Boyer, longtime legendary labor lawyer in the Pacific Northwest. He's also the vice president for defense of the National Staff Organization. I know he has been out there involved in negotiations. Um, it's been pretty cool to see the amount of parent support that they've had. I just want to, refer to a couple of testimonies I've seen just this week. I believe perhaps yesterday, maybe yesterday to close out the school week, parents rallied at the central office to support their teachers. The district would not let them in the door. So they were banging on the door trying to get in, just trying to speak to the school board and ask for a fair contract for the educators serving their students. Apparently, there was a lone counter-protester who tried to show up and shout at the parents and the teachers, but the longshoremen showed up on behalf of the teachers. And apparently it didn't take much of a conversation there for that one counter-protester to go on home. Didn't want to tangle with the longshoremen. And I got to say, I love that too. The longshoremen showing up for the teachers and the parents. That is awesome. So yeah, it's been interesting to see, the Seattle strike has obviously gotten more news attention. But these little ones can be nasty sometimes. I got to say from Mike Boyer, he has emphasized that they are ready for a contract. The REA, Richfield Education Association, they're ready for the strike to be over. They're ready to settle this. They're ready to have a fair contract. But the school district is just dragging their feet, just really dragging their feet. They've got a private attorney there. Who knows what motivations might be in play. I will say that it would not be the first time that an attorney slow-walked a process from a school district just to crank up those billable hours. I may have seen that a time or three. So shout out to the Ridgefield educators in Washington, the educators in Kent, Washington, educators in Seattle for fighting not just for their own pay, their own benefits, their own respect, but for the resources and learning conditions of their students. And I think that's just huge that they are making some real gains when it comes to special education, English as a second language students, some of the most vulnerable kids in our public schools. And they deserve to have the staff and the resources they need to be successful in the classroom. And it's a shame that, teachers have to go on strike to get that. No worker goes on strike lightly, but I think when it comes to the care-based professions, such as teachers and nurses, it's even more of a serious decision to make, right? Nurses don't want to leave their patients. Teachers don't want to leave their students. So that's never a decision they take lightly. For it to get to that point is really an indictment of the school district to let it get to that point. And of course, you'll see the usual talking points saying that the teachers were hurting the kids, hurting the community by keeping the schools closed. But it's simple. Settle right with the teachers, sign a fair contract, pay them what they deserve, pay to have the staff that the kids deserve, and that you're obligated to provide under federal law, by the way, IDEA and Section 504. That it's not that hard. It's really not that hard. School districts sometimes overcomplicate these things. Financially interested attorneys sometimes overcomplicate these things, but it's not that hard. Teachers want to be able to teach. They want to feel good about what they do. They want to know that they have the resources available to do their job effectively, because if they can do their job effectively, the students and the parents and the community are the ones who benefit from that, not them, right? They don't get a pay raise by having extra special education aides in their classroom.
Right.
If there's additional multilingual teachers hired in the school, that's not going to up their retirement pension. But it is going to allow them to do their job more effectively, and it's going to make sure that those kids get the services that they really deserve and that they are obligated to provide. So shout out to all those educators in the state of Washington for fighting for what's right. If you are an educator in Alabama and you're listening to this, You know, I know it's easy to think of 1,000 reasons why it can't happen here.
Mm-hmm.
You're too busy, you're overworked, it's too conservative, the AEA is too weak, people are too apathetic, people are too divided. I mean, we can go on, and it's easy to have those reasons in your head, and that's not to detract from the validity of those. But I can tell you that educators currently and previously have organized in conditions as bad or worse, and have done so successfully, and have really been able to secure victories for themselves and for their students through the power of collective action and organizing.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.